Hello class, today we're going to go over cardiovascular system, one part of the cardiovascular system which is the heart. Cardiovascular system we study cardio, heart, that's what we're going to go over today. Vascular means what? Vessels, blood vessels. Can be arteries, vein, capillaries. Then also we're going to go over blood. So these two parts we're going to study later chapter. We're going to study heart. We're going to see what are the structures and also primary functions of cardiovascular system, especially heart, how they transport oxygen, nutrients, hormones. Heart. This heart is a remarkable muscular pump that beats almost 100,000 times each day. Think about 24 hours, 100,000 times each day is going to pump almost 5 liters of blood per minute while at rest. Not doing exercise, at rest. Then throughout lifetime, if you look at that, the heart pump millions of gallons of blood. That reason is making as one of the hardest working organ in the human body. So we're going to see the structure. So this is outline for this presentation. First, we're going to look at the functions of heart. There are several functions of heart. First one, we're going to see that pulmonary circulation, one of them, systemic circulation. What is pulmonary circulation? That right side of the heart pump the blood to that lungs. Then blood return to that left side of the heart. We're going to see the pictures. I will explain a little bit better. Then the systemic circulation, which is that oxygenated blood pumped from the left side to that throughout the body. Then coming back into that right side of that right atrium. So the first, it pumps oxygenated blood to all body tissues, which is a systemic circulation. Make sure that every cells receive oxygen and nutrients needed for metabolism. Then also second, here we see that pulmonary circulation, it return deoxygenated blood to that lungs. We're going to study respiratory system later. Lungs main function that exchange carbon dioxide to that carbon dioxide and remove the carbon dioxide and oxygen, bring it back oxygen into that blood vessels or blood. So this is a pulmonary circulation. This systemic circulation happens. Then also the heart helps maintaining blood pressure, allowing blood to circulate efficiently throughout the body. So we talk about this one. Also, it transport hormones, immune cells, white blood cells, nutrients, metabolic waste product. So transportation is another factor when you study cardiovascular system. Then also heart contribute to maintaining the homeostasis, helping regulate body temperature, pH, fluid balance, while that continuous circulation, throughout the continuous circulation. That if you want to remember that heart's role, the right side pump the blood to that lungs, while that left side pump blood to that rest of the body. So that is the main functions of heart. So here talking about details of systemic and pulmonary circulation. So this are two major circulatory pathway where the blood moves. First we go and talk about the pulmonary circulation. So pulmonary circulation carries deoxygenated blood. Whenever you see this blue line over here, the blue lines were this representing that deoxygenated blood. Lack oxygen. So wherever the red color means oxygen rich blood. So like I said that pulmonary circulation carry what? Deoxygenated blood. You can see that deoxygenated blood coming from that to that right atrium. This is the right side. This is the right side. Maybe I will take another. Something you can see. This is the right side. This is the left side. Right side you can see deoxygenated blood. This is also right atrium. So this side is going to be what? Left. And left ventricle. We're going to go detail later that one too. So this deoxygenated blood goes from right atrium to that right ventricle. Then is go for pulmonary circulation. Then is going to that lungs. You see it's going what? Deoxygenated blood, carbon dioxide rich blood. In the lungs, what happened? Carbon dioxide leave the blood, and oxygen enter into that blood vessels. The process is called gas exchange. Then this oxygen rich, you can see the red color, both sides, left and right. We have two lungs, right and left. It's coming back to that left atrium. This is oxygen rich through this pulmonary vein. This is a pulmonary arteries. So this blood coming from that pulmonary trunk to the through pulmonary arteries to the lungs. Then pulmonary vein bring oxygenated blood into left atrium. So this is one of the exception you see. Veins carry oxygenated blood. So in the veins and arteries, one other question. Veins you can see pulmonary veins. Veins are bringing the blood back to the heart. Arteries taking the blood away from heart, going away from heart. Any blood vessels going away from heart should be what? Arteries. Veins are the one bringing back to that heart. Most of the arteries carry oxygenated blood. There are some exception. This is one of the exception. Pulmonary veins which carry oxygenated blood to that left atrium. Then next one is the systemic. I will take another color which is maybe. So another one, systemic circulation. So systemic circulation begin when that left ventricle pump the oxygenated blood to aorta. So this is a left ventricle pump the blood to the aorta. Aorta is the big blood vessels which carry oxygenated blood throughout that system, throughout the body. This blood travel through arteries, capillaries. This portion, that network of blood vessels, we called capillaries. These are capillaries. It's not like a one big blood vessels, a network of small blood vessels, which is called capillaries. Capillaries, veins. The main function, this area wherever that tissues, you remember what is tissues? Tissues are group of cells carry those blood into that tissues. Then the blood nutrients things exchange will happen here. In here you see that carbon oxygen is going out from the capillaries to the tissue. They can use it. Then carbon dioxide is a waste product after the metabolism coming back into that to that capillaries, then going into that right atrium. So then after delivering this delivering oxygen, the blood become that deoxygenated. Here deoxygenation happen. The deoxygenated blood return back to, like I said, right atrium through superior vena cava or inferior vena cava in the systemic circulation. So if you want to really remember, pulmonary circulation oxygenates the blood. Systemic circulation delivers oxygen to the body. So if you look at that size of heart, it's like your fist, it's not too big. It's a size of your fist. We're going to look at that apex, and what is apex, what is that base. We can look at this vocabularies. So this heart is located within the thoracic cavity. For example, if you look at this human body, this is a thoracic cavity, then abdominal cavity is starting. It stays inside the thoracic cavity. So the specifically, if I say in the thoracic cavity, there is a lungs over here, heart is in the mid. This portion we call the mediastinum, which is a central compartment between the lungs. This portion where that heart is located. The heart rests on, in the bottom, the rest on a muscular structure which is called a diaphragm. So approximately 2/3 of the heart lies to that left side of the body. You can see that pointy apex, the pointy part pointing towards the left side. So the left ventricle is mainly towards this left side of the heart, the left side of the lungs, this area. This portion we called apex. The broad, this portion we called base, where all the blood vessels enter and leave the heart in this apex. Like I said, this is a think about your fist. The heart is about the size of person, closed fist. So you can see over here, this is the lungs where the exchange happen, whereas the heart is over here. Think about it, the pulmonary circulation, the blood will go from that from the right side to that lungs is close by, but the systemic circulation, it has to go from the left side to that all over the body. That is not a short period, it's a long travel. So there are serous membranes are there. Serous membrane, the covering we called pericardium. We're going to explain. You remember that serous membrane, parietal and visceral membrane we study in earlier chapters. Then heart is located inside here in this region. So we're going to see this covering later. What is wow that different layers of that covering. So anatomy of heart, the pericardium I mentioned. Make sure you look at this. They have fibrous pericardium. It's a covering. It's a top fibrous outer layer. Then the serous pericardium, there are two of them. Serous membrane, I draw it. Parietal or visceral. Visceral is the one closer to that structure itself. What are the organ we're looking for? Or you see that parietal is what? Outside. Peri is what? Around. Cardium is a heart. It's around the heart. There is a membrane, protective membrane, which is a parietal pericardium, visceral pericardium. Visceral pericardium is also what? Epicardium. So inside, like I said, think about you are, make a fist, and if you have a water balloon, you put your fist into the water balloon. Think about that scenario. So what happens? It's a big balloon. Think about it's a big balloon, water balloon. Then you put your fist inside, closed fist. So it's forming that two layers with your fist. So this one is closer to your hand, which is what? Visceral pericardium. This outer membrane is called parietal membrane. That inside there is a fluid, the water, that is what? Pericardial fluid. The inside the cavity, you see that fluid. That's a way that friction, lubrication, and things. Is very important. This pericardial fluid, this membrane itself. So if you look at this structure, you are able to see that fibrous pericardium, very tough outer layer. Then serous pericardium, that's a parietal and visceral, two membrane. Then is filled with the pericardial fluid. Very protective. And you can see some fat, internal fat. Then blood, that blue color mainly carry what? Deoxygenated blood, which is red one carry oxygenated blood. This is a muscular, cardiac, myocardial muscular structure. Then blood vessels feeding that muscles. The heart wall. If you take the heart, piece of heart, the wall, from outside, this is the inside, going from outside to inside. First, we only looking that heart wall, not that membrane. We talk about fibrous membrane or that parietal pericardium. We're not talking. So we see first layer is a epicardium, second is a myocardium, that is a endocardium. This is a part of the heart wall, okay, not that membrane around it. So this first one is what? The epicardium, that is a visceral pericardium. Remember, epicardium is what? Visceral pericardium, that's a part of that serous membrane. Then this portion is what? Myocardium, that's the heart muscle. This is the one house for heart contraction. Then inner layer, that is the endocardium. Endo means what? Inside. Epi means outside. Myo means muscle. Cardium means heart. So whenever you study, make sure you look at the vocabularies. write it down. Most of them coming from Latin and stuff. We reuse in anatomy and physiology all these vocabularies. Myo we see in many places. We see in that muscles when we study. So make sure you write it down and understand before you going forward. So inside is called endocardium. This is a myocardium. 3 layers of the heart wall. See pectinate muscle, that's a muscular ridges in that auricle and right atrial wall. Then also trabecular carneae, muscular ridges and columns on inside the wall of the ventricle. Okay, so these two things, when you dissect the heart, you will be able to see that clearly. We look at that external anatomy of the heart. So here, like I said, there are 2 atria, upper chambers. Then also that bottom chambers are called ventricle. There are 4 chambers together. Think about this is a heart, base, apex. So this is what? This is a right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. So this one, 2 atria, right and left, 2 ventricles. So auricles are extension of atria. You would see sometimes flop-like structure. So the blood enter through that what? Superior vena cava or inferior vena cava and pulmonary veins. We're going to see that. Leave through that pulmonary trunk. We see in that aorta. Then we have grooves over here, coronary sulcus, anterior and posterior interventricular sulci. Sulci is what? Depressions. We studied those things earlier, where these coronary vessels stay in that regions. Here, this one. This is a right atrium. This should be right ventricle, left atrium. So the pulmonary trunk. When you hear trunk, is a tree trunk, is a big thing. They become what? Branches out. It's a trunk. So branches into, this is a pulmonary, branches into pulmonary arteries. One is go to the right side, one goes to the left. So here superior vena cava bringing the deoxygenated blood to that right atrium. Inferior vena cava bringing the deoxygenated blood to that right atrium. This is aorta, big blood vessel taking the blood from that left ventricle to that for the systemic circulation. Then we see that some of the blood vessels feeding that cardiac muscle. The great cardiac vein is coming out here. Then also you see that what else? Anterior interventricular artery is in that feeding over here. Then coronary sulcus, the coronary artery is going through that. You can also see that anterior surface. So this is a auricle. It's like a structure coming out. This is auricle. This is a right atrium here, left here. These are ventricles, muscular structure. So the back, the posterior portion of that heart. Anterior, you don't see that much blood vessels enter and exit. Mostly when you see that posterior portion, this blood vessels entering and exiting. So right atrium again, that left atrium, So you can see inferior vena cava bringing the blood, superior vena cava coming in, bringing the blood to right atrium. So you can see this structure. So the coronary circulation arteries, left coronary artery exit aorta just above that aorta leave the heart. So you can see over here. So it's getting this heart muscles get a fresh blood. You can see that. So that aorta, that aorta starting here, ascending aorta. So the blood supply is called cardiac circulation or coronary circulation, feeding all the heart muscle. Right and left coronary arteries, these things starting over here. This branch, like I said, from that ascending aorta, immediately after blood leaves the heart. You remember the fresh blood is coming from that oxygenated blood coming from the left ventricle, that contraction happen, pumping to that for the systemic circulation. First blood is getting to that heart. So what is the main function? These arteries deliver oxygen rich blood directly to that heart muscles known as myocardium. All these heart muscles called what? Myocardium. After the heart muscle uses this oxygen, what happen? It will deoxygenated blood is collected by cardiac veins, either small cardiac vein in the right side or great cardiac veins in the left side, which drain into that coronary sinus. Coronary sinus into that what? Left, that right atrium. So right atrium getting blood from that superior vena cava, inferior vena cava and coronary sinus, which all of them are deoxygenated blood. So that means when we read it, the heart supplies blood to itself before supplying the rest of the body. Think about a blockage in coronary arteries, blockage anywhere, maybe blockage here, that blood won't get into this part of that heart muscles. Reduce the blood flow to that heart muscles, certain parts, that leads to what? Myocardial infarction. Also, we commonly say heart attack. Think about this muscles doesn't get any oxygen, blood, that means no oxygen. So there is no ATP, no contraction. What happened? So leads to that heart attack. So like we said, the right atrium, left atrium, we're going to talk about in the atrial septum. Septum is a wall between that, in this case what? Atrial. In between the atrium there is a wall, that is a septum. Then also contain depression, the fossa ovalis, which is a remnant of fetal opening between atria. Which is a foramen ovale, that's the opening. Once you take the first breath, the opening will close it. There is a remnant, but there is no hole in that adult. Then also there is septum in between the ventricle, which is called interventricular septum. So we can see all these things on this slide. Like we said, there are 4 chambers, 2 atriums right and left, 2 ventricles right and left. Think about this right side to left side. So the atria receive blood returning to heart. Either this one deoxygenated blood after systemic circulation. In this atria receive oxygenated from blood after pulmonary circulation. The 2 lower chambers are like as a right and left ventricles. So the ventricles pump blood away from heart, either for the pulmonary circulation, deoxygenated blood to the lungs, or it will go for that systemic circulation, which is oxygenated blood. So the right ventricle, when you look at the wall between right ventricle and left ventricle, right ventricle has what? Much less diameter when you compare to the left, because the right ventricle pump blood to where? Only to the lungs, which require what? Less pressure. It's close by. Lungs is close by. So it doesn't need to have that much pressure. But if you think about the right side, you have a contraction that has to be high pressure to pump the blood to what? Throughout the body. So this muscle is left side is thicker. So also hearts also contain 4 valves that prevent backflow of the blood. Once you going from that from right atrium to that right ventricle, it's a one way. Once they close the valve, it cannot go back. That's a prevent what? Backflow. There is a tricuspid valve. This is the tricuspid. Right side is a thing about a right. Something I remember that way. Or this I can remember. Right. Tricuspid valve separate that right atrium from that right ventricle. Then this valve, which is called bicuspid or mitral valve, which separate what? Left atrium to left ventricle. The other one is a pulmonary semilunar valve. This one over here, that control blood leaving the right ventricle. Once they come here, they goes to pulmonary circulation. Once it's pumping to that pulmonary trunk, this closes. So the blood won't come back to that left ventricle. Then aortic semilunar valve, this one over here. This controls the blood leaving the left ventricle to aorta. So all of them are what? One way direction. There is no backflow for this blood. So valves, you can read all this information. Pulmonary muscles, what they do, they see in that ventricles muscles contain caudate tendinae. Then semilunar valves, you can read it. So you can see dissected heart, you see these valves, and you can see in the ventricular septum, caudate tendinae, you can see papillary muscles attached to that caudate tendinae. Caudate tendinae is like a string-like structure attached to that pulmonary papillary muscle. When the papillary muscle contract, they pulling. So that's These are the internal structures of that heart wall. The functions of the heart wall, so like I said, is a one-way flow. It's going to the different direction. Make sure you know what is the flow of that. One, right atrium, that first bringing that right deoxygenated blood to that right atrium through that tricuspid valve, going to that right ventricle. Then from there, through that pulmonary semilunar valve, go to that pulmonary trunk to that pulmonary arteries to lungs. Then once that exchange happen, oxygenated blood coming back to that heart through pulmonary veins, that left atrium to that left ventricle, then left ventricle to what? This one's aortic semilunar valve to that aorta for the systemic circulation, then coming back again to that right atrium. So it's a big that how the blood flow through that heart. Very important to know that. Make sure you write it down step by step or draw it and understand. So it's written. Make sure you read this one. Whatever I mentioned, the same thing you see. This is a step by step. Make sure you understand. So this chart is really good. So make sure you write it down, this chart, or print it out and understand. So like I said, superior vena cava, coming from superior vena cava to that right atrium, then tricuspid, right ventricle, pulmonary trunk, pulmonary artery. So all these things. Then also right atrium bring in that what? Superior inferior vena cava and coronary circle, the sinus. So all these things are blue color. This means they have what? Oh, deoxygenated blood because carbon dioxide rich blood. Then it's going to the lungs. Then what? Exchange happen. The blood color changes. That means is what? Oxygen rich blood going through lungs to pulmonary vein, left atrium, bicuspid valve. Then what? Left ventricle, aortic semilunar valve, aorta also is getting heart muscles, the coronary arteries. Then what happened? That heart tissues, also body tissue system circulation getting, they use that oxygen for that what? ATP production. Then after they use oxygen, what exchange that carbon dioxide into that blood vessels, the carbon dioxide rich blood coming back to that right atrium. So that's a blood flow for that systemic and pulmonary circulation. Also you can see coronary circulation. So make sure you know this map is very important. So histology we can study next that recording, just to go over these things. If you have any question, and make sure you ask me, okay?